Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, and northward, and southward, so that no beasts might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power.
(538 BC), the third reign of Belshazzar, 88-year-old Daniel, Babylon's minister of state, was by the Ulai River when he received another vision. The Ulai River is presently known as the Karkay River and is located in the Khuzestan province of southwest Iran. Verse 1, this vision is related to one Daniel got in chapter 7, with the notable exception of the lion. In chapter 7 verse 2, we see a bear raised up on one side, and in chapter 8, we see a ram, a male sheep, with 2 horns, one being higher than the other. Verse 16, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called, and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. Verse 20, the ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. There is no need for conjecture, this ram is the Medo-Persian Empire. Verse 3, the higher horn came up last. Herodotus, the Greek historian, states that in circa 550 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia defeated Astyages, the king of Media or the Medes, annexed the 2 kingdoms and created the Medo-Persian Empire. The higher horn represented the stronger Persian Empire. Verse 4 describes the extent of the expansion of the Medo-Persian Empire. The kingdom was in the east, therefore, it pushed or expanded westward, northward and southward. No earthly power could stand before it. So successful was the Medo-Persian Empire that, by the time we get to the days of Ahasuerus, as seen in Esther 1 verse 1, the Medo-Persian kingdom extended from India to Ethiopia, the extremities of the then known world, over 127 provinces or satrapies. The ram did according to his will and became great. Verse 5, from the west, Daniel sees an he-goat moving across the face of the earth. It didn't touch the ground and it had a notable or prominent horn between his eyes. Once again, conjecture is unnecessary. Gabriel gives the answer in verse 21. And it reads, and the rough or shaggy goat is the king of Gracia or Greece, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Thomas Newton, the Bishop of Bristol, in his book, Dissertations on the Prophecies, states that in the 9th century BC, some 200 years before Daniel, the Grecian or Macedonian people were called Aegiadi, the goat's people. Karnas, their founder, had the premonition to go to Edessa, modern-day Urfa in Turkey, wherein Karnas founded the city of Aegae, or Aegae. There he fixed the seat of his empire and made the goat his ensign or state symbol. From thence, the Macedonians were known as the goat people. The Holy Spirit used the fitting symbol of an he-goat to portray Greece. The he-goat moved on the face of the whole earth. That is, he covered all the ground as he passed, he swept everything before him, he left nothing behind. In its conquests, the he-goat didn't touch the ground. In chapter 7, Greece is represented as a leopard with 4 wings. That he did not seem to touch the ground, but to fly from point to point with the swiftness of the wind, shows the speed in which Greece conquered nations. The notable horn between the he-goat's eyes is their first king. Not the first in terms of the founding of the Grecian Empire, but the first in terms of the context of the prophecy depicted in this portion of Daniel chapter 8. Verses 6 and 7, the he-goat attacked the ram with great anger, broke its horns, knocked him to the ground and trampled the ram, beating it to a pulp. Verse 8, Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. When the he-goat was strong, at the zenith of its power, the great horn was broken. Alexander died in his prime. In 333 BC, Darius III of Persia lost the Battle of Issus to Alexander the Great. Darius tried to negotiate with Alexander in an effort to stave off complete defeat. He offered Alexander 10,000 talents of gold so that he could, at the very least, remain co-ruler of Babylon. Alexander rejected the offer. In 331 BC, at the Granicus River in Phrygia, modern-day western central Turkey, Darius tried to rally the remnants of his depleted army, in a last-ditch effort to thwart Alexander's conquests. He was soundly defeated. Darius was on the run. He was betrayed by two of his generals, Bessus and Nabarzans. They seized Darius, shut him up in a close cart, and fled with him as their prisoner toward Bactria, Afghanistan. It was their plan should Alexander's forces should catch up to them, they would purchase their safety by delivering Darius, their king. Alexander pursued them for several days. When they were about to be caught, Bessus and Nabarzans tried to convince Darius to ride a horse for a faster escape. Darius refused and the traitors killed him. They left his body in the cart and rode away. Alexander came up on the lifeless body of Darius III. Medo-Persia ruled the earth from 559 to 331 BC. In 331 BC, Alexander the Great, who studied at the feet of Aristotle, became the most powerful man on the earth. The final foe is vanquished and Alexander held a stupendous banquet. He went on a drinking spree, drinking from a Herculean cup that held upwards of 6 quarts of liquor. Whereby, he had a seizure accompanied by a violent fever, and died 11 days later, in May or June 323 BC. Alexander drunk himself to death at 32 years old. Daniel chapter 8 verse 7, When the large horn was broken off, 4 prominent horns grew in its place. Alexander's kingdom was divided among his 4 primary generals. Namely, Cassander, who had Greece and the neighboring countries. Lysimachus, who had Asia Minor, which is Turkey. Seleucus, who had Syria and Babylon. Seleucus is the father of the Seleucidae kings who ruled Western Asia from 312 to 64 BC. And Ptolemy, son of Lagus, who had Egypt, from whom sprung the Lagidae kings. They ruled Egypt from 305 to 30 BC. Verse 9, From one of these regions emerged a little horn, and this will be the subject of our discourse in the next installment.